Children are the future of society. They're pure, they're impressionable, and they're adorable, usually. And who could possibly influence them more than their parents? Bad parenting and good parenting can have lasting effects well into adulthood. Toxic parenting is like one of the worst things that a parent can do to their child, because the effects of that often continue for a very long time. What exactly is toxic parenting? According to Dr. Kelly Campbell, professor of psychology at California State, toxic parenting is when parenting hinders a child's development and causes them harm. And then the really sad part is that these parents, well, a lot of them experienced neglect or dysfunction when they were growing up, and now they're just repeating the same actions. And so it's like a vicious cycle that's repeating. If your parents ever done something and then justified it by saying, well, my parents did it with me, and look at me, I'm fine, I think that's awful logic, because the world that their parents raised them for no longer exists. Like, literally, the world has changed so much in like the past 20 years, even the past 10 years. That world no longer exists. And the world that they're raising you for, that may no longer exist when you're raising your own children. So what are some of the signs of toxic parenting? And this is based on the work of Dr. Kelly Campbell, Dr. Elizabeth Dorrance Hall, assistant professor of communication at Michigan State, and Shannon Thomas, who's a trauma therapist and the author of the book Healing from Hidden Abuse. One sign is that they make really harsh and critical remarks about you. Thomas, the abuse therapist, basically says that toxic parents have a severe lack of empathy, and a chronic one at that. So maybe they'll say things like, "You've gotten fat. Are you really wearing that? You look terrible." Thomas actually identifies some points of criticism. So it could be your physical health, your mental health, it could be your finances, your appearance, your relationship status, or career challenges. And an obvious one would be your appearance, because this is the easiest to target. We expect parents to build their children up, but by insulting them and constantly putting them down, we're achieving the opposite effect. Even if they insist that it's just a joke, it's still not okay to damage a child's self-esteem. Because the way that parents, caregivers criticize children internalize that, and then it becomes their own internal mental critic. So the way their parents criticize them, that becomes the way that they criticize themselves. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure this is like a principle of cognitive behavioral therapy, one of the leading evidence-based therapies out there. So I saw a TikTok a while ago, and someone pretending to go see a therapist and discussing their issues. And one of the things that they were talking about was that when they were a kid, they wanted to get a dog. It was a girl. She told her mother that she wanted a dog. And then her mom was like, "Why? We already have a dog." And she was referring to her daughter. And I was like, why would you say that to your own child? I know parents who call their own children donkey or dog or something. And that's probably scratching the surface for some of you guys, but that's it's horrible. Dr. Hall basically says that if someone consistently makes you feel unworthy and disrespects you, then that's toxic. There's a difference between concern and bashing someone at every chance that you can get. Another sign of toxic parenting is comparing you to others constantly to emphasize your shortcoming. Maybe it's to your friends, your cousins, your siblings, or to strangers. Thomas explains that parents pit children against one another. Unhealthy parents pit children against other members of family. I've definitely seen this happen, with competition between family members and cousins. It's really toxic, because then the cousins end up hating each other because their parents are constantly comparing them, and then there's this really strained relationship between aunts and brothers and sisters. It just breaks apart the family, and this basically creates situations for jealousy and resentment to flourish, even if it's just for aspirational purposes. I want my kid to be like that. The way you say it changes everything. Because if you make a child feel bad about what they aren't, then they'll just beat themselves up about it. I mean, this is a side point, but if your parents put conditions of worth on you, so for example, you're only shown affection and love when you get good grades or something, right? Or if you don't get angry when something happens to you, or if you don't cry when you get hurt, then that just teaches you that you can't be yourself. You can only receive love if you meet these conditions. So this is basically something that Carl Rogers, the creator of person-centered therapy, came up with. He says that the conditions of worth are the reason for people's distress. Because if you think about it, then the child thinks that they're not inherently worthy or good, and they base their worth based on what they can do rather than what they are. I think parents should be affectionate and warm most of the time, and of course strict when it comes to discipline. And I'm not saying be fruity and love your kids even if they do horrible things. So now moving on to the work of the two professors Campbell and Hall, which primarily focuses on toxic fathers, but I feel like a lot of these can be applied to toxic mothers as well. So one thing they point out is substance abuse issues. So, if they change in personality, if they become meaner and like more harsh after alcohol abuse, Dr. Campbell says that this is a potential sign of toxic parenting. I mean, I'm sure we've all seen this trope somewhere in like some show or some movie, like the abusive, toxic father who gets drunk all the time, doesn't let his kids do anything. And it's primarily like a daughter that the toxic father is abusing. He's like a gruff, overweight bear of a man. If alcohol inhibits your senses and your motor control, then obviously it hinders your ability to parent. And if you're abusing alcohol, then what more can we say? Another sign of toxic parenting is that they don't want you to grow up. I found this surprising, but like I still thought it made sense. If you notice, there's like this recurring theme of like trying to control your children to an extreme. Like adulthood should be celebrated. Like your child is growing up and becoming mature, becoming capable of taking care of themselves. I think an example of this would be like if your parents don't let you go out because they're afraid that you'll mature and grow up and learn things from other people and not be in their control anymore. Maybe they won't let you get higher education. Maybe they won't let you see your mail. Maybe they won't let you set your own appointments, even when you're an adult. So Dr. Campbell basically says that this toxic parent is keeping their child dependent on them even when they're an adult. And Dr. Campbell says that if your parents are narcissistic, then there's a good chance that they're toxic. If they over-exaggerate their accomplishments, or if they believe the world is jealous of them, they're probably narcissistic. I think that's interesting. I wonder how people even become narcissists. Are they born narcissists? Is it genetic, inherited, or is it like because of the environment? Probably both. So even if you reach adulthood and you feel like your needs are still low on the priority list of your parents, and that they insist that their needs are paramount and triumph over yours all the time, then that's probably toxic. I feel like toxic parenting is one of those issues that doesn't really get addressed the way that it should. Because obviously we've talked about how these effects will continue, like low self-esteem will continue well into adulthood. Like you're bound to feel some type of emptiness if your primary caregiver isn't showing you love and affection. Like chances are you'll seek that affection and love and attention from someone else and from somewhere else. And it might be from the wrong people, from the wrong places. Like if your parents are crushing your self-esteem constantly, then what are you going to do in school? Like if you get bullied or someone criticizes you, like you won't be able to stand up for yourself. And I wouldn't know anything about that. Anyways, thanks for watching today's video. Like and be sure to subscribe because I post weekly videos, and share with your friends. I'll see you guys in the next one.